The morning sun slowly rose over the small village of Green Valley. Birds sang happily as farmers walked toward their fields. Children laughed while chasing each other on dusty roads. But in one small wooden house lived a 12-year-old boy named Daniel. Daniel's family was one of the poorest in the village. Their roof leaked whenever it rained. Sometimes they ate only one meal a day. Many nights, Daniel went to bed hungry. Yet every morning, he woke up with a smile. Because deep inside his heart, he believed his life would change someday. His mother often looked at him and smiled. "My son," she would say softly, "never let poverty decide your future." Daniel never forgot those words. Every day, Daniel walked nearly 5 miles to school. His shoes had holes. His school bag was stitched together many times. His uniform was old and faded. Some children laughed whenever they saw him. "There goes the poor boy. He'll never become anything." Daniel heard every word. Sometimes those words hurt more than hunger. But instead of fighting, he smiled. He quietly entered the classroom. He listened carefully. He studied harder than everyone else. His dream was simple. One day, he wanted to become someone who could help others. One evening, Daniel returned home with tears in his eyes. He threw his school bag onto the floor. "I don't want to go back," he whispered. "They laugh at me every day." His mother gently placed her hand on his shoulder. "My son, people laugh because they cannot see your future. They only see where you are today. But God sees where you are going." Daniel looked into his mother's eyes. In that moment, something changed inside him. He wiped away his tears. "I won't quit, Daniel. Mother. Maybe they're right. I'm too poor. I don't belong there. Mother. No, my son. You belong wherever your dreams take you. Never stop believing." Life became even harder. One rainy night, Daniel's father became seriously ill. The family had no money for proper treatment. Days later, his father passed away. The little house became silent. Daniel watched as neighbors carried his father's coffin away. He felt as if the world had stopped. Now, he wasn't just poor. He was the man of the house, only 12 years old. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He looked at the stars through the broken roof. He whispered quietly, "Father, I promise you, I will not give up. I will make you proud. I will take care of Mother. And one day, I will change this village." The stars sparkled above him, as if heaven itself had heard his promise. Little did Daniel know, that promise would begin a journey no one could imagine. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Without his father, life became much harder. Daniel's mother worked from sunrise until sunset, washing clothes and cleaning people's homes. Some days she returned with a little food. Other days, she came home with nothing. One evening, Daniel noticed his mother pretending she wasn't hungry. She pushed the last bowl of porridge towards him. "Eat, my son," she said with a smile. "I already ate while I was working." Daniel looked into her eyes. He knew she was lying. Slowly, he pushed the bowl back. "No, Mother. We will share it." That night, they divided one small bowl of porridge between them. Neither of them had enough. But they smiled anyway, because they still had each other. One morning, Daniel stood outside his classroom. His teacher called him aside. "Daniel," she said gently, "your school fees haven't been paid. You can't attend classes until they are." Daniel lowered his head. His classmates watched as he quietly picked up his bag. Some whispered, Some laughed. He walked home alone. Each step felt heavier than the last. When he reached home, he told his mother. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry, my son." Daniel hugged her tightly. "This isn't the end. I'll find another way." The next day, Daniel went to the village market. He asked everyone the same question. "Can I help you work?" Most people shook their heads. Finally, an old fruit seller smiled. "I can't pay much, but you can help me carry baskets." Daniel's face lit up. "Thank you." From that day on, he carried heavy baskets under the hot sun. He swept the shop. He arranged fruits. Every evening, he earned just enough to buy food for his mother. He was tired. His hands became rough, but his heart remained strong. Every evening after work, Daniel stopped beneath the same old mango tree. He opened the only book he still owned. Its pages were torn. Its cover had almost fallen off. But to Daniel, it was priceless. While other children played football, he studied. When it became too dark to read, he moved beneath the streetlight near the village square. Night after night, people walked past. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. But Daniel kept reading, because he knew something they didn't. Knowledge could never be stolen. One evening, an old man stopped beside Daniel. He had been watching him quietly for several nights. "What are you reading?" he asked. Daniel smiled. "Anything I can learn from." The old man sat beside him. "You remind me of someone. My younger self." Daniel looked surprised. The old man introduced himself. "My name is Mr. Samuel. I was once the poorest boy in this village." Daniel couldn't believe it. The old man continued, "But I never stopped learning. And one day, my life changed." Then he reached into his bag. He handed Daniel 3 books. "They're yours." Daniel held the books, as if they were treasure. For the first time in months, hope returned. But he had no idea that meeting Mr. Samuel would change the course of his life forever. Life finally seemed to be getting a little better. Daniel worked during the day. He studied every night. Mr. Samuel continued to encourage him. One evening, after returning from the market, Daniel noticed something strange. Smoke. It was rising from the direction of his house. Then he heard people shouting, "Fire!" He dropped everything and ran as fast as he could. His heart pounded. "Mother!" When he reached home, flames had already swallowed their small wooden house. Neighbors were carrying buckets of water. Some tried to save what they could, but the fire spread too quickly. Daniel found his mother standing outside. She was safe, but everything they owned was gone. Their clothes, their books, their furniture, even the 3 precious books from Mr. Samuel, had turned to ashes. The next morning, Daniel sat quietly beneath the mango tree. He felt empty. Everything he had worked for was gone. Just then, 2 older boys approached him. One of them smiled. "We know how you can make money." Daniel listened. "You don't need to work hard anymore. We steal from the rich traders at night. They never notice." We make more money in one night than you make in a month. Daniel looked at them. He remembered his mother's words. He remembered his father's face. He stood up.
No.
I would rather stay poor than become a thief. The boys laughed. Suit yourself. They walked away. Daniel watched them disappear into the distance. He knew he had just passed a test that no one else had seen. That evening, Mr. Samuel visited Daniel. He had heard about the fire. Without saying a word, he handed Daniel another stack of books. Daniel smiled through his tears. Then Mr. Samuel said something unexpected. I have a secret. I never finished secondary school. Daniel looked surprised. I educated myself. I read every book I could find. Success doesn't always begin inside a classroom. It begins inside your mind. Daniel listened carefully. Those words stayed with him forever. Several weeks later, the village council announced exciting news. There would be a reading competition. The winner would receive a scholarship to attend one of the best schools in the district. Daniel's heart raced. This is my chance. Many people laughed. The poor boy. He doesn't even go to school. Daniel ignored every insult. Every day, he studied harder. Morning, afternoon,
Night.
while others rested, Daniel kept reading. Competition day finally arrived. Children from many villages gathered. Some wore expensive uniforms. Others arrived with their parents. Daniel came alone. His clothes were still old. His shoes were still worn out. But inside his heart, he carried something stronger than money. He carried belief. One by one, the contestants read aloud. Finally, it was Daniel's turn. He stood before the judges. He took a deep breath. Then, he began. Every word was clear. Every sentence was confident. When he finished, the hall became completely silent. Moments later, the audience erupted into applause. The chief judge smiled. The winner, Daniel. For a moment, he couldn't move. Tears filled his eyes. His mother ran forward and hugged him tightly. Mr. Samuel smiled proudly from the back of the hall. Daniel had won his first battle, and it was only the beginning. The judge says the winner of this year's scholarship is Daniel. The mother said to Daniel, I always knew you could do it. Daniel replied, this is for my father and for everyone who never stopped believing in me. The scholarship changed Daniel's life. For the first time, he would attend one of the best schools in the district. On his first day, he woke up before sunrise. His mother carefully ironed his new uniform. It wasn't expensive, but to Daniel it felt like a king's robe. She smiled as she adjusted his collar. My son, she whispered, walk with confidence. Remember where you came from, but never let it limit where you're going. Daniel hugged her tightly and began the long journey to his new school. When he arrived, he was amazed. Tall buildings, a large library, science laboratories, students from wealthy families. Everything was bigger than anything he had ever seen. For a brief moment, he wondered if he truly belonged there. Then he remembered his promise. I will never quit. Inside the classroom, Daniel chose a seat near the back. Before class began, a confident student walked over. His name was Victor. Victor came from one of the richest families in town. He glanced at Daniel's worn backpack and smiled mockingly. "So, you're the scholarship boy?" Daniel nodded politely. Victor laughed. "I hope you know this school isn't for charity." Several students laughed. Daniel felt embarrassed. But instead of arguing, he simply opened his notebook. He had learned something important. Not every insult deserves an answer. Sometimes, success speaks louder than words. A month later, the school announced its first major examination. Many students felt nervous. Victor smirked. "This will separate the smart from the lucky." Daniel spent every evening studying, while others watched television. He reviewed his lessons. While others slept, he solved practice questions by candlelight. The day of the exam arrived. The questions were difficult, very difficult. Some students gave up halfway through. Daniel kept writing. When the results were announced a week later, the entire school was shocked. Daniel had scored the highest marks in every subject. The classroom fell silent. Even Victor couldn't believe it. After Daniel became the top student, people began treating him differently. One student, Michael, seemed especially friendly. He sat with Daniel during lunch. He borrowed Daniel's notes. He often praised him. Daniel believed he had finally found a true friend. But one afternoon, Daniel discovered something shocking. His notebook was missing. The notebook contained months of handwritten study notes. He searched everywhere. Finally, another student quietly pointed toward Michael's locker. Inside, Daniel found his notebook. Michael admitted he had hidden it. He hoped Daniel would fail the next exam. Daniel was heartbroken, not because he lost his notes, but because he had lost his trust. One evening, after finishing his homework, Daniel returned to his dormitory. The school principal was waiting outside. "Daniel," she said with a smile, "a letter arrived for you." He carefully opened it. His hands trembled. It was from a National Education Foundation. Because of his outstanding performance, he had been selected to compete in a nationwide academic challenge. The winner would receive a full university scholarship. Daniel stared at the letter in disbelief. His dream was growing bigger than he had ever imagined. But the competition would bring him face to face with the brightest students in the entire country. His greatest challenge was still ahead.